Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Vibe Podcast. Yes, we are having a video episode finally. I promised that I'll work on it this year, and I'm glad that I'm finally able to work on one. And on this episode, we're going to be talking about growth, the power of growth. Over the past 4 5 years, I've observed and seen that growth is truly in the tiny steps, in the very tiny steps, the steps that nobody sees and the steps that nobody appreciates in truth. Many times we associate growth with like the big things, like when somebody does something that is massive and you're just like, oh my God, that happened. And this person has grown. Typically, like if you obviously most of us went to maybe university and the various stages of what is the academic journey. You have the primary school, the secondary school, and by the time you are in GS1, by the time you get to GS2, obviously you are growing. But by the time you get to like GS3, then that's a milestone that everybody can say, oh my God, this milestone is a major milestone. And that is when people appreciate growth. And it's the same thing with every other thing in life. Like if you have a startup, for instance, when you or a business, when you make your first sale, nobody really sees that the business is growing. You also can even despise the third sale or the fourth sale. The first sale is exciting because that's a milestone. You finally got somebody to be convinced that hey, you can buy this from us, or you can come back and buy this from us. And then by the fifth sale, it seems like a milestone. By the 11th sale, it's not really as exciting. By the 12th, by the 22nd, they're not really major milestones. Maybe the next milestone you're thinking about is like the 58th. And then after that, the hundreds. And then next thing you're talking about, how many millions have we made? And while those milestones are good places to gauge growth or establish that growth has happened, that is not at that point exactly that growth has happened. And this is why baby steps are very important. I was opportune to speak at the Prepare for Life initiative that Celebration Church executed in University of Ife. And it was I spoke extensively about certain principles that I have used or worked with in my life or from observing my journey. And then after I was done speaking, about 3 4 people came up to me and told me that, oh, I really, really, really appreciate Divide podcast. And I was like, interesting. You know, there's something about when you are doing something and you just podcasting is actually very difficult. Let me just start there. Why is it difficult? It's difficult because content creation generally actually, the time and the effort and the work that you do into recording is not seen except the camera is recording. But that's not when the work happens. And then when it goes live, you are done with that episode and you move on. Obviously, you track the numbers, but you don't really know where the numbers are coming from. Like, you know, okay, in Nigeria, you have 80% people listening, you have in Canada this percentage. But you don't know that every number that you see, every play is a person. You know, but you don't know. And that is why whenever I go out and I see people walk up to me and say, oh, I really appreciate what you're doing with the Vibe podcast, it touches me in no small way. It touches me very deeply because it makes me realize that this midnight recording when my inverter is about to die, this um, working on the topics that I want to um, talk about, this work that nobody sees or nobody in quotes is aware of until it goes live in like another episode is out, it actually touches or is of impact. And I become grateful when people give me that response because I'm seeing that people are blessed by what I'm doing, even though it blesses me. I know it will bless Joshua when he's grown up, and it will bless the rest of my children. God is only two I'm hoping for. But yeah, angels around. But basically, you realize that just that small step of making an episode and documenting your thoughts because you think the thoughts can be useful, can give somebody clarity at a different stage of life. The episodes that I recorded months ago, they really, I can't remember them exactly, but I know the idea that was in that episode. But the person that listens to it is really blessed by it. And for me, I see it as growth. I see it as impact. And whenever I meet somebody that walks up to me and tell me that, oh, I really like what you're doing with this, for something that I don't think is world changing, I don't think is groundbreaking. But the truth is, that is the same thing for everybody in every phase of life. Like whatever changes you're making to your life now might not seem groundbreaking because the whole world is not sharing. Might not seem like it's going to change the destinies of people. Might not seem like something ridiculous is going to come of it. But we need to believe in just the power of our tiny progress, our tiny steps, our tiny growth sprouts in one way or the other, and the impact that has to just one person. Because in truth, it's all about one person. I watched a video recently that spoke about how there was a crusade somewhere. So basically, he spoke of an evangelism crusade at a particular time in history, and how the place was packed and everywhere was full. And then there were two children looking for a place to stay, but they couldn't find a place to stay. So they were about to leave, and then one usher called them and said, "Oh, please come." And then created a space for them in front and just let them sit down in a very tiny space just to manage. And they stayed and they gave their life to Christ. And apparently, one of the children was, I think, one of the biggest evangelists, one of the most impactful evangelists of all time. I think I'll find the name of the person, but I think it was Billy Graham was one person, and the second person was the person that helped him to organize all the evangelism outreach that he had all of his life. I think Billy Graham is the person that gathered the most people in the UK at a particular time to preach the gospel. It's a record of some sort. But guess what? We don't know the name of that person. We don't know the name of the usher. We know Billy Graham. We know is the person that helped him to organize those outreaches. But we don't know the usher that created space for them. And that is how very small steps, very small intentionality can literally create impact that you have no idea about. It's just like how you can introduce two people that are your friends and they can get married. More than get married, they can have children. And because you introduce them, they form a family, they have a particular life, they have children that will come and live a good life because of a good marriage. And you played a part in that. Interesting, right? But that is literally what a baby step is. And that is what the growth that followed was because of a baby step. So, the Vibe podcast has hit 10,000 plays since we started. And 10,000 plays is not a remarkable number to the internet world. 10,000 plays means a lot to me because I know that could be 10,000 people. Obviously, not 10,000 people. It's probably 1,000 people. But that is impact in a way that I could not gather in my room when I was recording. Because truly, when you start, it might not look like it. And what the impact can be, you cannot exactly define. But if you don't do, you will never know. And that is really the power of growth. That you can start something, you can be intentional about something. And it doesn't mean that thing will last forever. But it just means that in the moment when you do something, when you are kind to a stranger, when you help somebody in need, when you reach out to a friend in church that you've not heard from in a while, when you do something very small that is an act of kindness that the world does not, you're not obligated to do, when you go out of your way for something, an idea, when you back yourself, those moments, they matter. And those moments, that's actually where the real impact happens. That's where the real growth happens. And that is the power of baby steps. And that's how they can lead to growth. I hope this episode has blessed you in a way. And like we say on every Vibe podcast episode, there are so many other episodes that can bless you. I hope that you find time to listen to this. I hope that you share this with somebody and that this is some form of push to do that thing that seems like nobody cares about, because that is also you backing yourself. And it's a baby step that I'm sure would count one way or the other, whether in your development or in the development of others. I remain your host, Aurelio Ashunubari. Thank you very much. Cheers, guys.